Third thing I would tell you is the gift of Jesus is a gift of grace. It's a gift of grace. And I love the gift of grace because grace is unearned, undeserved, unmerited favor of God. I'm going to read it again. It is the unearned, undeserved, unmerited favor of God. God's grace cannot be earned. God's grace will never be deserved. And God's grace cannot be bought. If you could buy it, it would not be a gift. If you could earn it, you wouldn't need grace. Like, I got this on my own, brother. Like, no, you can't earn it. And if you deserved it, it would not be grace at all. In fact, the fact that we need grace is the actual need for grace tells us that we are messed up and we need grace. Like, I need grace in my life. And maybe you're out there and you're perfect and everything's good in your life and you've got everything together. But I will tell you this, that I still need God's grace. And I know this, that it is unearned, that it is undeserved. So when I mess up and when I make a mistake, God's not looking at me going, man, shame on you. Well, you've got to work your way back up to this point, and then you'll get to this point and I'll let you worship me again. No, it's unearned. It's undeserved. It's unmerited. God pouring out his grace on me. And every gift God has for you flows from this gift of grace. Every gift. Romans 8:32, it says this, he who did not spare even his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also along with him graciously give us all things? Somebody say all things. He give us all things. See, can I tell you that once you've given your best, everything else is easy. So sometimes we're like, I don't know, I don't want to ask God for that. We're coming up on 21 days of prayer, and we've got some things that maybe we're believing God for, and you're like, I don't know if I should pray for that, and I should ask for that. I'm just not sure if I should believe God for that. I don't know if God would do it. Can I tell you this, that if he gave you Jesus, why wouldn't he give you all things? Come on, when he's given you his best, can I tell you that everything else is easy? When he's given you Jesus, everything else is easy. Because he's given you Jesus, forgiveness is easy. Because he's given you Jesus, mercy is easy. Because he's given you Jesus, grace is easy. Because he's given you Jesus, healing is easy. Like, everything else flows from this gift of grace. And again, it's not because you earned it. It's not because you deserve it. It's just because he wants to give you grace. The last thing I'll tell you is God's gift of grace is not cheap. It's not cheap. Ephesians 1:7 says, in him we have redemption. That is our deliverance and salvation through his blood, which paid the penalty for our sin and resulted in the forgiveness and complete pardon of our sin, in accordance with the riches of his what? Grace. God's gift of grace isn't cheap. My daughter is going to college. She graduated high school last year, and she goes to one college now, and we have dorms at our college, and so she decided that she wanted to move into the dorms at our college, and she's officially living on her own. She's adulting. Come on, and it sounds really glamorous until you start doing it, right? And so she was, it was a couple of months after she had moved out, and we have family dinner on Monday night, family dinner, and we gather around the table, and we just kind of are hanging out, eating dinner, and talking about different things, and we're talking about how everything's going. You know, obviously we see her all the time still, so it's very fortunate, but then she starts talking about how expensive everything is. And she's like, Dad, chicken at the grocery store is expensive. And I was like, yeah. And then she's like, gas is expensive. Oil changes are expensive. Like, she's going down the list of all these things. And she's like, these things are really expensive. And I'm laughing at her. And the reason why I'm laughing at her is because the expense has always been there. But she had just never felt the weight of the expense. Because the house that she grew up in was free to her, but it was expensive to me. The groceries that she ate out of my refrigerator anytime she got hungry was free to her, but it was expensive to me. The bed that she slept in that kept her warm and cozy at night, come on parents, was free to her, but it was expensive to me. The weight of the expense was only felt by me. And I would just tell you this, that if you can encounter this free gift of grace, but you need to know this, that it's free to you, but it was expensive to God. Like it did not come cheap, and we don't treat it as something that's cheap. It's free to you, and you can have this free gift of grace. I can't earn it. I don't deserve it. It's unmerited, but I can have it freely. That does not mean that it was cheap to God.